Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing to take a look at the next week's slate, heading down to the state of South Carolina. Clemson heading on the road to play South Carolina. The most exciting part about this game is that you take a look across college football. I don't know if you'll find a better environment than what you're going to find Saturday night, Williams-Brice Stadium against the Clemson Tigers. I mean, you have Michigan, Ohio State. You have the Iron Bowl going on. Night game, Williams-Brice Stadium against Clemson. This is going to be an electric environment. Two teams that are playing probably their best football that we've seen from them all year, both riding 3-game win streaks. As a college football fan, fired up for this one. Excited to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The amount of support y'all have shown the boys throughout the season with all of these game breakdowns, it truly means a lot. I love doing this. You guys giving me the opportunity to do this has been a blessing. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, the best part about doing this, talking ball with you guys in the comments section, picks, predictions, keys to the game, throw them in there. Appreciate you guys rocking with this. And let's get into this matchup. And I want to start with this South Carolina offense going up against the Clemson defense that just doesn't get enough credit for how good they've been, right? Clemson's sitting at 7-4. Not the standard in Clemson, but you take a look at their losses, they've outgained their opponents in all 4 of those losses that they've had. This Clemson team, a lot better than their record shows, and this Clemson defense, one of the best units in the country. You take a look at what they've done, 4.6 yards per play given up. That is top 15 in the country. A really impressive performance against Drake May and the Tar Heels last weekend. Drake May, 16 of 36 for only 209 yards. And most of those yards came on 2 or 3 plays in that game from a down-to-down basis. Clemson really brought it to one of the better offenses that you see across the country in North Carolina. The biggest matchup that I'm looking at is South Carolina running the football and pass protecting against a Clemson front seven that is just absolutely elite. And you look at most of the struggles South Carolina has had on the offensive side of the ball. Spencer Rattler has played at an extremely high level. Xavier Legette looks like one of the best wide receivers, not only in the SEC, but in the entire country. The biggest problems, the run game and pass protection. They're only running the ball 44% of the time. That's 115th in the country. The most concerning number, though, only 2.8 yards per carry. That's 127th. The lack of a run game is putting a lot of pressure on the offensive line to pass protect, and they just haven't been great. Spencer Rattler getting sacked 10.2% of his dropbacks, a really hard number to work around and put points up on the board. If they can protect Spencer Rattler, when they do protect Spencer Rattler is making teams hurt. Can they pass protect against a Clemson front seven that has been dominant? That's probably the biggest question mark. You look at this Clemson defensive line, true freshman TJ Parker, Peter Woods, they've been dominant. Tyler Davis, Rook O, they'll be in the NFL next year. Ben turning it up. Xavier Thomas, DeMonte Capehart also playing really good. Clemson, not only extremely talented in that defensive line, but they're extremely deep. And that gives a lot of teams a lot of problems, especially as you get into the third and fourth quarter of games. They're also really good. Jeremiah Trotter, find me a linebacker that's playing at a higher level than Jeremiah Trotter. And that's not even to mention Barrett Carter, who's also one of the best linebackers in the country. Using those linebackers in terms of not only stopping the run, but sending them on pressures and blitzes, it's been dominant for Clemson. And you look at the back end, this is one of the better secondaries in the country. A 53% completion percentage given up. That's 5th in the country for only 5.9 yards per pass attempt. That is 3rd in the country. I mean, Nate Wiggins, Andrew Makuba, some of the better guys, defensive backs that you see in the back end. And as a college football fan, again, Xavier Legette, one of the best wide receivers in the country, going up against Nate Wiggins, one of the best, if not the best cornerback in the country. Some really exciting matchups in this ball game. That's probably the story. Can South Carolina pass protect and get some sort of semblance of the run game? And what does that matchup look like with Xavier Legette and Nate Wiggins? Fire me up for that one. Now, flipping sides, the South Carolina defense has been a frustrating unit to watch because what was the talking point heading into the season was, can South Carolina stop the run? Like we expect them to be good in the back end. Can they stop the run? It's kind of been reversed. South Carolina has been very good against the run, only allowing 3.9 yards per carry. That's 39th best in the country. In the back end, giving up a 62% completion percentage. That's 85th in the country, and 260 passing yards per game. That's 119th. South Carolina struggles has been in the back end, specifically giving up those explosive plays. And you look at Clemson, what do they struggle with the most? Probably hitting those explosive plays in the passing attack. Now, this Clemson offense, I think, starting to find its confidence a little bit. Last 3 games, 30-plus points in each of those games. Cade Klubnik, I think the biggest problem with Cade Klubnik is the wide receiver talent and the ability to find those explosive plays when you have a quarterback that's struggling and a wide receiver room that's banged up and, quite frankly, just lacks talent. They're only averaging 6.1 yards per pass. That's 118th. And we've talked about it a lot. Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers not going to the transfer portal to grab a playmaker at the wide receiver position, I think has hurt this team in a meaningful way. And if you add Keon Coleman, a guy that transferred to Florida State, to this offense, I think the narrative and the performance of this offense would look a lot different. Now, Clemson starting to run the football better with Will Shipley and Phil Maffa has been massive, not only in terms of working the play action and trying to hit those explosive plays, but just taking a little pressure off Cade Klubnik's plate and asking him to do a little bit less. I think that's really helped. Now, after a full season, I think you're starting to see Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley get on the same page a little bit more. I think Garrett Riley's getting more comfortable with what Cade can do and what he can't do. And I think Cade Klubnik is growing his confidence within this offense. And again, the last 3 games, 30-plus points in each one of those games. This offense looks a little bit cleaner. It looks a little bit more confident. It's been hitting the explosive plays at a higher rate. Can they hit the explosive plays against the South Carolina secondary that struggled to give up the big play? That's probably the biggest question that you're looking at in this game. And again, the run game is going to be massive. Like, you're going into an extremely hostile environment. Can you lean on your run game to kind of keep you on schedule, take a little bit of pressure off Cade Klubnik, and work that play action? Going to be a massive story in this game. Getting to the pick, Clemson coming in as 7-point favorites on the road. Couple things I'm looking at. One, it's going to be an electric environment in South Carolina. This team fighting for a bowl game appearance is going to come out ready to rock and roll. My problem is, when I look at this matchup, 1, Clemson's offense starting to hit its stride. And then 2, I really struggle to see South Carolina's offensive line deal with this front 7 for Clemson. It's been the weakest point of Clemson's offense, that offensive line, and probably the strength of Clemson is in that front 7, getting after the passer. For those reasons, I struggle to see Clemson or South Carolina get that run game going. I struggled to see the offensive line for South Carolina pass protect against the front 7 for Clemson that I think is one of the best in the country. Clemson is one of the most over or underrated teams, I think, across the entire country. You look at that 7-4 record, I think it completely misrepresents how good this Clemson team is. And at the end of the day, you are what your record says, and you win in these games. That's what matters. But when you're looking at this game, I think this Clemson team is a lot better than most people give it credit for. I'm going to go with Clemson to cover the 7 points on the road. Do I feel great about it? Absolutely not, because it's going to be jumping in Williams-Brice. I think Spencer Rattler is not a quarterback that I want to bet against, but I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers. I think they'll be able to stop the run, get after the quarterback, and I've liked what I've seen from that offense the last couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.